The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to SportsSkope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, here on the most influential sports talk show in the country. I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. I did. I ate a little too much, like I always do, just about every weekend. Really good games on. Stranger Things, not left for any imagination there. Way better than the other season, I think. The release of that, a lot of people's been talking about that, Better Call Saul and everything. But yeah, that game 6 and game 7 really good for the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat. I'm sure the ratings number is going to be pretty high there. SEC Media Days, fallout in Major League Baseball over a fantasy football day. Excuse me, not SEC Media, SEC Spring Meetings. Also, like I said, we'll talk about that. Talk about Colin Kaepernick tried out for the Raiders. Falcons made a big signing the other day. We'll get to that. But first, let's break down this finals. This Boston team, and people don't know this, but this Boston team has beaten the last two series, two teams that were in the previous two Eastern Conference finals. You're not going to find that stat anywhere else. That's why I'm the best. Think about it. They beat Miami last night. Sunday night. They were in the 2020 bubble finals there. Then the series before that, they beat Milwaukee, who was last year's finals winner. And now they're going to play the Golden State Warriors, which was the 2019 representative of the NBA Finals. Now they lost to, obviously, they got really banged up there at the end. They lost to the Toronto Raptors. But I could not find or even think of one team that has played and beaten the last three teams that were in the finals. So this is one of the most impressive runs of all time, folks, if you really think about it. They played two finals, two game sevens, won both of them. And now they have a chance to potentially make history. You would think ESPN would mention that. But again, that's why guys like me I feel like I have the best show, because they look at other things and not the historical run. So yeah, this is a great run here. And instead of ending this show with breaking down the finals, I want to begin the show with breaking down this finals. Now, you look at Clay, Steph, Draymond, three players there that had played together for 10 years. And the core chemistry there. But let's not now remember, Steph is 34. He's 34. Klay Thompson and Draymond both are 32. I want to say they were both drafted in the same draft there. But anyways, breaking down, this is going to be one of the most competitive finals in recent history, I think. I think it could go 6 or 7. But you got to look at the average age of the Warriors is 27.4. Remember, they got young. Andrew Wiggins, still a pretty young guy. Jordan Poole, guys like that. And then you compare them to the Celtics. Their average age is 25.7. The Warriors cap allocations they have the most expensive cap, and the Celtics is 18th in cap. But those are just some few fun facts here. No Celtics player has played in the finals game. The Warriors have played in a combined of 123 games of experience in the finals. 6 of 8. I mean, really impressive run there, if you think about it. So that's why I wanted to break this down from every angle here. And let's go with Boston's age. Okay, the Celtics, Marcus Smart. I didn't realize this guy had been a Celtic since 2014. Smart was, he's 28 years old. Jaylen Brown's 25. Been with this team since 2016. And, of course, Jason Tatum, 24, been with this team since 2017. So they have that youth edge there on their balance. But you got to look at the postseason stats. I really don't like, since it's 2 different seasons, I really don't like to give the regular season stats since this is not a regular season game. Okay? These teams split in the regular season. And I heard another stat today. Steph Curry, in 8 games, has averaged 35 points a game, except for the last game he played against Boston where he got hurt. Keep that in mind. I'll come back to that statement here in just a second. Golden State, number 1 in offense in the postseason, guys. 114 points a game. Boston's 8th with 107. Now, Boston is 2nd in total defense. Miami was the number 1 defense. So you could see how evenly matched this is. Now, I told you, and by the way, Boston, they swept a team that is had 2 top 20 players, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They beat, in the 7-game fashion, both series. They beat 2 of the previous finals teams represented in the East, including one being the champion there. Okay, who did Golden State go through? Golden State went through Denver, who had Michael Porter was out, and of course Jamal Murray, who's hurt just about every other year. Denver, and then Ja Morant missed the last 3 games from Memphis there, and of course they played a Luka-heavy, Luka-leaning Dallas Mavericks team and beat all of them. So if you're looking at battle-tested in this playoffs, you got to give the edge to Boston there. But if you look at overall experience, they're not old, they're not too old, but they're old enough, the Golden State, where injuries could be a concern. Okay. But here's where I think that Boston, there's a few things here. Here's where I think that Boston could be vulnerable. Some of you historians may remember this, you may not, but I do. Phil Jackson, by the way, we'll talk about, obviously, a player on that 2004 Detroit Pistons team. He's the new head coach there. Darwin Ham or whatever. They went Ham. That team in 2004, the Pistons team, Phil Jackson said that Spurs series was so hard on his players mentally and physically that they were totally out of gas by the time that they got to a fresh, hungry Detroit Pistons team led by Rasheed Wallace and Chauncey Billups and that company, Richard Hamilton, Ben Wallace, really good team. And so I thought about what Phil said in 2004. Now, if you say, well, that was an older team. They had Karl Malone, Gary Payton. Yeah, that's true. But mind you, that core, Shaq and Kobe, both went on to win championships after that series. Remember, Shaq went to Miami. Kobe went on to go to 3 more finals and win 2 of them, okay? So go back to Boston. Boston had to win a crucial game, Game 7, when 79% of the home teams win those games against Miami, a team that was in the finals 2 years ago. Then prior to that, they played Milwaukee, a team that they lost the pivotal Game 5. 85% of teams who win Game 5 in a 2-2 series go on to win the series. 85%. So they beat the odds twice this year, that Boston team. So that is what I look at and think, okay, you look at the lags that Boston has, bad shot selection. Sometimes Marcus Smart, compared to Golden State, they're really a smart team. Don't get me wrong. Marcus Smart gets a steal or a rebound off of a fast break, and Golden State is disciplined enough. They're already down. It's not Golden State, but Miami or whoever, and it's 1-on-3, and he tries to lay it in. He rushes it, misses it. Golden State gets the ball back. I'm keep saying Golden State because I can see this happening. Miami gets the ball back. Milwaukee gets the ball back. 1-2 passes. Then you hit a 3. Now that went from a 5-point swing there. Okay? They have these lapses in games. Boston does. That's why I'm leaning Golden State. But you can see what I'm getting at, though. This could be a very tight niche series. The fact that on the average, the core players there are all under 30 for Boston and 24 for their leading guy and Jason Tatum. Their leading guy's 10 years older. And Steph Curry, the last injury he got was against Boston. Now, if the refs let him play, which I think they will, this could go the other way. But the way I see this series is those mistakes that Boston made against Miami and Milwaukee, this team is too sharp to let that opportunity go. They're underrated. They're 8th in defense, by the way. So they're 8th in defense, Golden State, out of 16 teams. And Boston's 8th in offense. Now, Boston is 2nd in defense. Golden State is 1st in offense. 114 points per average per game. So you look at all that. You look at the coaching. You look at their depth on their bench. But I would give the depth issue a push. But guys like Jordan Poole, and, of course, and Wiggins. Now, Robert Williams is an excellent defender on the inside. Don't get me wrong. Really good at the rim. But you look at the team chemistry. You look at their defense. You look at the shot selection that they seem to get every time they get the ball. That's all Golden State. And that stat I heard today, out of the last 8 games, Steph Curry's averaging 35. So they're going to have to change up what they're doing. Of course, the coach there for Boston, he has all this data just like I do. They're going to try a different stance in here. And if you're a Boston fan, they've won pivotal road games. Milwaukee, they just come out of one. So home court could not be that big a deal. If you're a Boston fan looking at the glass half full, if you're looking at it half empty, you think about Phil Jackson talking about the Spurs taking all the life out of the Lakers before that they played that Detroit Piston team. So all that being said, folks, I think that this is probably I think it's going to be Golden State in 6 games. And I think that this series, each game will be within about 5 points because these teams are evenly matched. They do shoot the ball much better than their oppositions that Golden State has played. They do move the ball just as good as Golden State. And mind you, again, these guys have all played together a minimum of 5 years. their core and their core, and that is, Klay Thompson coming off of an injury. Steph Curry was injured this year. Draymond Green was injured. So injury could catch up with Golden State. But if anything, look at the 2 7-game series. You could also say, well, it could catch up with Boston. So if you are this is primary East Coast versus West Coast, and this is going to be a ratings galore. Anything better than this would be the Lakers and Celtics. And Pickles says Golden State has cut down their turnovers. When you have an average core like that has played together for 10 years, Pickles, okay? And the fact that I heard this stat today, their core, you got 2 college graduates, and you have 1 3-year player with Golden State. You don't have that with Boston, but these players were all 3 drafted as well. And they molded together. Looney and Williams will be a good matchup. Yeah. And Pickles talks about that, Looney and Williams. So it's going to be a really good matchup series. The Celtics' depth could keep them in these games. But it's going to be Marcus Smart trying not to do too much. What is that guy's name? Derek Cope or whatever. I can't remember his name. He's an off guard there. Kind of favors Tatum. And they need more of him getting the ball to the rim than they do sitting on the jump shot. If you try to out Golden State, you will lose. And I think just simply those mistakes they made, these 2 guys, again, 2 of the 3-year players in college and another one 4 years. So your basketball IQ is really high. 10 years together with each other as a team there, all drafted. They're not going to make the mistakes. It's like in football. They're simply not. And I'm just telling you, that's why I think Golden State will win. And I made the case for why they could potentially lose, especially if the refs let them play. Potential for injury because you got 3 players over 30 years old. I want to say they've only got 1, and that is, Al Horford there in the middle. But depth, it's a check there. It's a check there in depth. And I say all that because, and that being said, would I like to see Boston win? Absolutely. That is what I do. I'm calling this from a straight balls and strikes, basketball only perspective. Now, personally, I don't care for Steve Kerr. I think he's planning to possibly run for office one day, and he likes to spit out left-wing talking points when it's convenient to bash this country. Every time the media gives him the chance, and most of our media leans his way. They'll never ask him tough questions outside of the United States. For example, this is what irritates me about Steve Kerr. It's why I like to see Boston win. Steve Kerr, who coaches for a team in San Francisco, has not said, and our media has not asked him that question about the announcement of the NBA playing preseason games in the UAE, which is in the middle of the desert in the Middle East, where gay people could get the death penalty. According to The Guardian, this is not my opinion, that according to The Guardian, the San Francisco is the gay capital of the world. He says nothing about that, but he wants to lecture you on gun laws and all that stuff, lecture you on the former president. He's very educated on that. Then he says he has no clue about China. He has no clue. He said, I'm not educated enough on China. He's playing dumb on one end, and then he's super educated on the other end. He shuts up and gerbils for other countries, but not this country. That's why I don't like him. A guy like me, you know where you stand, whether you agree with me or not. A guy like Steve Kerr, you never know where you stand because he's so fake, Just a little food for thought. But again, I can separate my personal feelings for him. He's doing a good job coaching his team. They have a really good culture. Other teams should emulate that culture. I like Golden State in 6 Wouldn't be surprised if it went Boston in 6 or perhaps 7, because Boston has a tendency to blow leads and not close teams out because of their youth. Okay? Staying in basketball, Mr. L Jr., the Lakers made a hire. They made a hire over the last time I talked to you at head coach. So Juwan Howard turned them down. I mentioned this on the Mac and Jack show. A guy who is real close to getting fired for assaulting another coach. He don't even interview for the job. No mention. They didn't even reach out to Jay Wright. The team was interested in Doc Rivers. According to reports, Rivers does not even take the job. Doesn't even interview either. So they settle for this guy, Darwin Ham, 48-year-old coach, was an assistant there back in from 2011 to 13, and been an assistant for about 10 years, worked with Giannis at Milwaukee. And I heard a few, this was reported today, I heard this from Joy Taylor from the Colin Coward show, that this is an assistant coach. This is not a big-name head coach. He says one of the things that he has to be assured of is that he can hire his own staff, and Kurt Rambis isn't mandated to sit in the meetings. Former Celtic friend of the organization, Kurt Rambis, and Kurt Rambis does not set the lineup. That should be a given. This guy gives it as a basic ultimatum, or I'm not coaching. That's how toxic that job was, Pickles. But that being said, I don't blame the guy. To get a head coaching job, I'm out here looking for jobs in my field. You know, ideally, I would love to work in Florida, but I may have to go work in Minnesota, and I don't want to drive in that snow. But I got to pay my dues. And it was reported that LeBron was vowing to get Doc Rivers. And Doc turned him down, and I don't blame him. And then he says, no, I'm looking forward to working under Coach Ham. I thought that was an interesting little setup there. And there was a report, Baker Mayfield, the Carolina Panthers offered to take on some of the salary for Baker Mayfield this past week. And that deal fell through, and I'm thinking, I'm sure they're biting themselves or kicking themselves in the rear end, this Carolina Panther team, for not taking Baker Mayfield. Now, I'll say this, and like I said the other day about Mayfield, I think this guy should eat some more humble pie, get his reputation back up, and take the role that he's given. There was another woman who got out of the lawsuit, got back in the lawsuit with Deshaun Watson. My guess is they're going to suspend Watson. Don't agree with it. They're going to suspend Watson for 8 games after this suspension. Maybe he appeals it to 6. You want Baker Mayfield in over Jacoby Brissett. Possibly that move can be made. I keep hearing and reading that he's still not going to get cut. This is going to come down to the last hour. But then again, maybe you keep this guy on for the suspension of Deshaun Watson. The team could go 4-2, but they got the talent to. I think that would be pretty healthy. Now, Colin Coward mentioned the fact that with the report of Jameis Winston still hobbling and limping around mini camps when he tore his ACL back in week 8 last year. Now, mind you, some players don't work as hard as others, and he's had work ethic issues in the past, and that's Jameis Winston. Now, Mayfield may want maybe a 5th-round pick or something, and maybe they take on most of that $18 million, they being the Saints. Maybe you bring him down to New Orleans, a Baker Mayfield, and let him. Now, mind you, there's a good chance Mike Thomas is going to be back. Jarvis Landry is going to be there. Okay. They got the player that they drafted in the 1st round. out of, I want to say it was one of those Ohio State players at wide receiver. You still got a really good running game there, and you're going to have a really good defense who owns Tom Brady with Honey Badger on that team, by the way. Really good, the same defensive coordinator. So that could be a landing spot, or possibly him playing all the way up to the trade deadline. Could be a possibility for the Cleveland Browns as well. Let him play that first 6-8 games. If they go 6-2, he's supposed to be healed of a shoulder issue, whatnot. And Mayfield can get his stock back up. And I think he's starting to come to a realization on that, if you ask me. Okay, I did not mention this the other day on my show, but I'm going to mention it here now. Colin Kaepernick, and I didn't put any of this stuff in my title, but I'm looking at it here in my notes. He did the Raiders trial. Obviously, the Raiders didn't take the guy. And now he is back in the quarterback to be in waiting or maybe to not be at all. Said he had a good workout, but nothing imminent. Now, mind you, the Raiders have Jared Stidham and obviously Derek Carr. But my thing is, I want to remind everybody, this guy was beat out in 2016 by Blaine Gabbert. His play was going way downhill before this protest thing came about. And remember, before this, a few years ago, he schedules a workout with the NFL, then reschedules it to a new location at the last minute because he wanted his people in there filming it. Now he's kind of bored with the protest, my guess, and he's wanting to come back and play football again. And maybe he's bored with that girlfriend of his that got him involved in this. Personally, if you think the guy can help you win at 34, take a shot at him. I don't care. I think this is much to do about nothing nowadays. He said his protest was over, but the fact that he ain't played in 5 years, he would be in. I would give a lot of other guys more looks than him. The fact that he hasn't played in 5 years. Now, mind you, like I said on the Mac and Jack show, the guy, as soon as Jim Harbaugh started having problems with the 49ers management, with that general manager, who's the general manager now, Jacksonville, as soon as that came about, that's when his play started going downhill. But anyways, is what it is. Couple big signings over the last time I talked to you. David Njoku has signed with Cleveland now. 4 years, $54 million. He's only going to be a $3.3 million cap hit this year. Again, if Watson doesn't get this massive suspension, you've got him now. This is a deep threat down the seam here. He can work miracles with a guy like Deshaun Watson. Hold on, folks. Let me switch out here. With the guy like Deshaun Watson going down the seam, with Amari Cooper, with that offensive line, with that running game there, and their defense now they've got Jadeveon Clowney. I'm looking at this division, and in the same week that Njoku was assigned to an extension, the Ravens signed former Chicago Bear, Denver Bronco cornerback Kyle Fuller. And again, the Ravens are one of those teams that they don't have to have the perfect quarterback. They're so fundamentally sound everywhere else. From the defensive standpoint, offensive line, defensive secondary. Remember, they had bukus of injuries last year. And they were in every game, including the Green Bay game. when the Green Bay was number 1 seed. You know, they're bringing in Cal Fuller, Marcus Williams, combined with the youth infusion of Cal Hamilton, Damon Williams. I mean, this is one of the better secondaries. Was it Hamilton? This was the guy that really high pick out of Notre Dame. Jalen Amari Davis and Damian Williams, Demarin Williams. So these guys are one of those teams, they always seem to find those right players at the right time for the right price. You know, just a really good defensive team. And of course, it's going to come down to, I like the James Bradbury signing with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. They same issue there. Great everywhere. Defensive line, check. Offensive line, much improved. Wide receiver core, much improved. But the quarterback is questionable. Lamar Jackson skipping OTAs when he's lost Hollywood Brown. So it's a team that's a quarterback away. And I don't know if they're going to sign him to a long-term extension this offseason or not. I wouldn't do it. If I did do it, it would be a larger amount of money at a shorter period of time because of his injury history and his ability to run the ball, his habit of running the ball that many times. This guy, Lamar Jackson, leads the league in attempts as a quarterback. Historically, he's on the pace to be the most rushed quarterback of all time, more than Cam Newton. Before he will pass Cam Newton in rush attempts before his 30th birthday, if he makes it in football to his 30th birthday. But they're good everywhere else. You know, I just mentioned Clowney, Njoku coming back to this Cleveland team. Cincinnati, totally rebuilt offensive line. They roasted. Now, they were in every game except Cincinnati games. Baltimore. They roasted Baltimore in the secondary. Now he's going to have more time to throw, and their defense has gotten better. The black and blue AFC North. Now you've got a 24-year-old rookie who I think has a really good shot to get Rookie of the Year there, and Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. With that defense that, mind you, did beat Baltimore or Buffalo last year. Didn't they sweep Baltimore this past year? Now they have a tendency to beat anybody, Pittsburgh, in the league, and they also have a tendency to lose to anybody in the league. Get blown out by Kansas City. Beat on a short week by the Raiders at home. But with this guy, with Kenny Pickett there, much mature rookie quarterback here, 24 years old, not your average rookie. I could see that team possibly making noise and getting into the playoffs. I could see the Ravens getting there. I think this is going to be one of the most competitive division, if not the most, other than the AFC West, in all of football. Which makes me think even more of a team like the Titans and the Colts, that the loser of that division will not get a wild card. It's going to be divisional winner or bust. Because the North is so strong, the AFC North. Speaking of football, fantasy football, man, this is a funny story out of, I think it's out of Cincinnati. Tommy Pham, Pham, probably not saying that last name right, and Jock Peterson got into a scuffle there. It really wasn't a scuffle. During batting practice before Friday's game, the Reds outfielder Tommy Pham, this is off The Athletic, slapped Jock Peterson across the left cheek. Now, first of all, we're in batting practice, and and this was over a incident over last year's fantasy football league, which Tommy Pham, who's now been suspended 3 games for this, claims that there was a lot of money involved, and this was a draft league that Jock Peterson of the I think he's with the Dodgers or whatever. He illegally put a player in that was hurt or whatever. And basically, he put a player in that Pham didn't think he should be able to put it in. I've had disputes like that where when I was playing with my friends from high school, they didn't like the fact that I was in the having the ability. Well, I played for money in high stakes fantasy leagues before DraftKings even got big. Then when they asked me to come in their league around 2013, the draft league, I dominated early, but I was telling them I was doing a fantasy league before that. But they made a big deal of me completing a trade or doing a trade proposal to get a player in the middle of the season. So I thought, you guys are too childish. You're too envious. I just got out of it. Some of those guys still watch. So it was something like that, a movement of player. Now, again, Tommy Pham of the Reds claims there was a lot of money involved, and Peterson was really rubbing this thing in. He was taking shots at Pham's old team, the Padres, and he walked up and slapped him in the left cheek. Now, if you slap me, why wasn't a big brawl? I mean, so it makes me think that maybe Peterson's more guilty of baiting this guy, or maybe he's just afraid. But, if you actually slap me, I mean, I'm probably going to hit you with that bat. May not kill you, but you may wish you were dead. Because you're just not going to walk up and slap me in my face like that. Slap number 2 is what the headline was, one headline. The slap heard around the world. And Pickle says Peterson was with the Braves last year. So he's kind of bounced around, Jock Peterson. And I tell you, these games can get serious, like especially when you got money involved and you're doing a draft league like that. That's why my suggestion, if you still want to compete against your friends, just go in a salary cap league. You can do that on DraftKings, FanDuel. I'm pretty sure. I know you can do it on DraftKings. I've did it a couple of times, but my friends didn't want to do that. And you could draft your team versus his team, or you can do the salary cap thing, his team versus your team. Maybe you may have a lot of the same players, maybe not. I always think I will, but I may have like 1 or 2 players, and the other 6 would be different. But that's how you settle that instead of arguing over waivers and all this stuff, these unwritten rules. And I've had an issue with my ex-brother-in-law because I didn't understand the waiver system. I was trying to pick up a player and drop him, and before he could pick him up within the same week. But the issue was I was supposed to drop him after the Sunday's game, not before the game. I always thought if you pick the player up and drop him, it's always a long waiting period for that player to get. Either way, he picked up the player. He beat me. It really ticked me off. That's why I didn't like those draft leagues. Plus, there's a lot more luck than skill involved with those. But I thought that was really interesting because he's been in the news for a few days. So this guy gets suspended for 3 games for that, and Peterson kind of made no big deal out of it. I seen the video. I'm like, dude, if you slap me like that, you better back it up all the way, man. Because that is a call for an all-out brawl. But, hey, I'm glad everybody worked it out right. Okay, there was SEC meetings in Destin, Florida today. Speaking of slap, there was no slap between Jimbo Fisher did not slap Nick Saban. Breaking news. Jimbo Fisher did not slap Nick Saban. Nick Saban actually comes up and makes another comment saying he was out of line. And listen to what Nick Saban said today at
I didn't really say that
at the SEC spring meetings today, his big quote, "I have no problem with Jeff Fisher," but here's out of his words.
Did anything wrong? You said they bought their recruiting class. I didn't say anybody did anything wrong. Okay. And I've said everything I'm going to say about this, but I think that, I guess the point, and I should have never mentioned any individual institutions. I said that before, but, some kind of uniform name, image, and likeness, standard that supports some kind of equitable national competition, I think is really, really important in college athletics, in college football. And we've always had that, whether it's equal scholarships, equal Alston money, whatever it might be. And so that's kind of point one. Point two is we need some kind of transparency in name, image, and likeness deals, to verify that, players are doing what they need to do to have the opportunity to, make money in name, image, and likeness. And believe me.
So he's squirming like nobody's business there. He has a point. A universal system. You're not supposed to use it to recruit a player to the university. You're supposed to. It's supposed to be a benefit for your production on the field after you've performed for the school. I do think it can be legislated. It's going to be tough, but teams are sloppy enough. An Ole Miss, for example, there was allegations of them cheating. There's teams are sloppy enough that would get themselves called for something like this, And he says he has no problem with Jimbo. Jimbo Fisher didn't say anything, by the way. There was no, because I could not find a quote on him about this, Jimbo Fisher. But Nick Saban knows he messed up. He may have planned that, but it did not land the way that he wanted it to land. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Also, out of the SEC meetings, Commissioner for the SEC, Greg Sankey, said an 18 playoff without automatic qualifiers is something we would consider. Now, that sounds a little stupid right now. It sounds you're going to get a lot of teams that aren't that good, like a TCU kind of slide in there, somebody like that, end up playing in Alabama and not be in the game. But in the near future, you're going to have a team like Oklahoma. You're going to have who's the other one? Texas. Texas is fifth. They are fifth in national recruiting right now for this past season. Texas A&M was number one. They were they're the two largest endowments in all of college football. My guess is they use name, image, and likeness, whether it be legal or illegally, to get those players in. According to Nick Saban, that would be illegally to recruit them to come in. Who's keeping up at this point? Maybe at some point it will. But my point is, you get a Texas and a Texas A&M possibly being in the top 10 in a few years from now when these teams play in the SEC. Can you imagine a two-loss team getting in who did not get into the playoffs? Yes, I can. Think for example, you play, say you are a Texas A&M, you play a ranked Texas team 1 week. Now you've got, Brian Kelly at LSU the next week, and then you have a Nick Saban the next week, 3 games, or you interchange Nick Saban for a Kirby Smart Georgia team. Then what? So you get 2 out of 3 losses there. But that is a murder's row schedule. Okay? And you're playing, so you get an 8 seed? Yeah, I could see that. They'd be a lot better team than that Cincinnati team, I'll tell you that. And they were a 4 seed. They didn't go, we went undefeated, but we've seen what happened to them in the Alabama game when they played in the bowl game. they were averaging 4 and 5 yards a carry. Now, they had some really good players on that team. Just didn't have the depth of an Alabama. Sauce Gardner, I think, is going to be a really good cornerback in the NFL. But he's one player. Alabama's got players everywhere. So an 18 playoff, if you're looking at combining these conferences, USC is going to be much better with Lincoln Riley. They're going to be scored a lot more points. They're going to be a legit contender. Miami's going to be a legit contender. Again, Brian Kelly, LSU, a lot more physical, a lot better coach, actual coach there. Texas A&M probably going to be the team to beat in the next year or so. They're going to win it in the next 3 years. They're going to win a national championship within the next 3 years, in my prediction. So those teams right there, I didn't even mention the defending national championships. Georgia's right there. Okay, Ohio State is there. All right, you start adding them up, you're getting close to 8 teams there. You know, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, those 3 right there. Miami, that's 4. USC is 5. Ohio State is 6. And you throw 2 more SEC teams in there, throw a Clemson in there, throw a Clemson, throw another SEC, you throw a wild card team in there, and you're right at 8 teams. It doesn't sound that bad when you look at the future going forward. There's also been talks, and I believe this is in some conferences, they're going to do away with divisions. They're just going to take the best 2 teams in the conference, whether they're in the West, the East, the North, and South, and they're going to play. And say, for instance, in the SEC championship games, a lot of these years, other than here lately, pre-Kirby Smart, the winner of the West usually won. Florida was way down for a little while, 5-6 years, not too long. And Urban Meyer, Tennessee's been down since the start of the 2000s. Really, they just started going down each year. Went through several coaches, and Georgia. Under Mark Richt, I mean, they really underachieved. So really, it was the winner. I mean, look at the national championships just out of the West. Auburn, LSU, Alabama, all 3 of them have won a national championship within the last 10 years, I want to say. Am I right there? 12 years. Look at that, Auburn. I keep thinking Auburn won in 15. That was when Jimbo Fisher won. They did win with the Cam Newton year. So that's 3 just out of the West alone. Pickle says Texas and USC should flourish. Yeah. Texas is getting the players. USC is getting a lot of the transfers. USC's got one of the best wide receivers, if not the best the leading receiver for Pittsburgh under Kenny Pickett has transferred. What's this guy's name? Roydell Williams or whatnot. This freshman. He's going to be sophomore now, transfer from Oklahoma. He went to USC. So USC don't really have a lot of depth. They're going to have a lot of offense. They're going to be a high-powered team. You still got Kelly over there, Chip Kelly at UCLA. But I do like what they're doing down there in Miami there as well with that team, with that recruiter, and what they've got going on there. So you got this thing spread out. It's not going to be a walk in the park in the ACC for Clemson. Plus, Dabo Swinney is not a big fan of NIL either. So he's going to have to find a way to up his recruiting, or he's going to be going into other directions for a guy that's coming off of 2 national championships. But, yeah, I was just looking through my notes here. Yeah, no shots fired, which is good. Can you imagine 2 60-year-old men fighting over recruiting? Paul Feinbaum said, well, they're both from West Virginia. They're both really competitive, and they're both really stubborn. I think I added that part stubborn in. But I was basically getting what Paul Feinbaum was saying about this. Now, you've got SEC Media Days coming up next month. And mind you, these 2 teams will play in October in Alabama. Can't wait, the way Bart Scott said before he had got an opportunity when they beat the Patriots and went on the lose to the Steelers in the playoffs there. If you guys like the show, share the show. I will be back on next Tuesday, if not sooner, to talk about the games here. You keep everything, keep your notifications on. I may pop in, and if we have breaking news and make any kind of announcement or whatnot, you can see me on the Mac, Jack, and Jim Jeffcoat Show, the Northeast Streaming channel on YouTube or Facebook, anywhere you get that. We talk about this week in sports. Had a good show on Sunday. Okay. And again, going back to the finals, I like Golden State to win it in about 6 games. Could it go the other way? Absolutely. I'm not just saying that to be saying that. I think this is going to be one of the most competitive finals. Could go 7. I think they're just a little bit sharper than Boston, but I would not be surprised if it went the other way. Pickle says Warriors by 9 in the first game. I think the spread, Pickles, is 3.5. If you're keeping up with that, which I did take a glance at today because I was looking at Rafael Nadal, who beat Djokovic in the French Open. I had Nadal $3 on him to win on FanDuel. He's plus 350. I paid like $13.50 or something like that. He's going to move on to the semifinal. Number 5, Rafael Nadal, the most successful French Open player in the history of the game, will be playing in the semifinal. I don't know who, but I know it will be here in the next few days. I guess they'll be playing the final on the weekend if he makes it. That end up going to 4 sets, I want to say. So, that's a mouthful. Have a good night, everybody. Otherwise, I'll see you here around 9 p.m. Central Time, give or take a few minutes here on SportsSkope.